Hello again, everyone. This is Paul, and here I'm going to talk about a Harry Potter theory, because I did just finish rereading Goblet of Fire for the sake of proofreading it for my sister, and I was thoroughly mesmerized by that book yet again. I guess you can never get enough too much Harry Potter. And this still happens to be my favorite book ever written. But I came across a recent conundrum. And I know that J.K. Rowling is notorious for having huge lists of mistakes, pretty much everywhere you look, and a lot of them have to do with math. But I'm surprised that I haven't heard this one yet, one that I would think would have been glaringly obvious that the movies would have fixed, and that is, how old is Dumbledore? So, what got me first thinking about this was when I watched the movie Half-Blood Prince. Admittedly, it was when I rewatched it on DVD recently with my sister, like about a month or two ago, when the scene came where Harry, Ron, and Hermione were talking in Ron's bedroom, or at least what I think is Ron's bedroom, seeing as I don't think they ever showed that before in previous movies. And Hermione said, "There's been lots of talk recently that Dumbledore's got a bit old." "Well, that's rubbish. He's only... How old exactly?"
150? Give or take a few years.
And I thought to myself, is that actually true, or is Ron just exaggerating like he always does? So I decided to do the math. And because I'm horrible at math, I'm going to have you guys as like my second, third, fourth, infinite witnesses, however many views it says I get on this. So we've already established that the main events of the Harry Potter series take place between the years 1991 and 1998. How do we prove that, you ask? By looking at the gravestones in Godric's Hollow in the 7th book. Because we're not just going by J.K. Rowling's word on this, we're going by what's actually in the books. And it very clearly states that James and Lily Potter died on Halloween Eve, 1980. Fast forward from 1980, 11 years, and you get 1991. So, Harry was born July 31st, 1980. So, going off of that, if we know that the books take place in the 1990s, a good starting point would be to figure out when the Chamber of Secrets was opened. And that's easy enough to explain. Draco Malfoy reveals that the Chamber of Secrets was first opened at Hogwarts 50 years prior to the events of the 2nd book, which is in 1992. So 1992 minus 50 is 1942. Keep a bookmark on that, just in case I do the math wrong. So the Chamber of Secrets was first opened in 1942. We know that Tom Riddle was 16 at the time, because he reveals that to Harry, after it's revealed that he's a memory living through the diary and living off of Ginny. So how are we supposed to calculate Dumbledore's age based on that? Well, we have to know another reference before that that would give an indication as to how old Dumbledore was. Believe it or not, we find one. In The Life and Lies of Albus Dumbledore, we find out that Dumbledore was the age of 18 when he and Grindelwald became friends. And they weren't friends for very long, barely a month. And then Grindelwald fled. And it said Dumbledore waited for some 5 years before he did his attack on Grindelwald. So if we're doing the math correctly, that would mean that when Dumbledore finished off Grindelwald in 1945, 18 plus 5 is 19, 20, 21, 22. Dumbledore would have been 23 in 1945. So if the Chamber of Secrets is opened in 1942, Dumbledore would have been approximately 20 years old. A very, very young Hogwarts professor, indeed, letting someone teach at the age of 20. And we also know that Hogwarts is the type of school that wouldn't consider that a big deal. I mean, we know that Dumbledore won every prize that the school had to offer. We know that he was considered the most brilliant student that ever stepped within their walls. We also know that Voldemort himself asked for a teaching job at Hogwarts once he turned 18. So it's not a stretch of the imagination to assume that Dumbledore got the teaching position at an extremely young age. But what is a stretch is that creates a huge problem when it comes to when Dumbledore first met Tom Riddle. Because if we established that Dumbledore was the age of 20 in 1942, and Tom Riddle was 16 at the time, Dumbledore first met Tom Riddle when he was only 11. So, minus 5 years from Dumbledore's age of 20 in 1942, Dumbledore is the tender age of 15 when he meets Tom Riddle. That would be the year that students begin to take their OWL exams. So in other words, Dumbledore hadn't even finished school, and he was already offering Tom Riddle a position at the school. So that would mean that unless Hogwarts' standards were really lax that year, that would imply that Dumbledore was a professor at the school while he was still a student, because we know that he finished all of his years at school. Unless, the only possible alternative I can think of is that Dumbledore was so brilliant that he didn't need to finish all 7 years, that he was such a prodigy that he graduated well before that. But that is such a stretch of the imagination that I'm pretty sure it's unlikely. I think what actually happened is J.K. Rowling made a simple mathematical error. Claiming that Dumbledore defeated Grindelwald in 1945 in the very first book was essentially saying that if Dumbledore was only 15 when he first met Tom Riddle, 20 when the Chamber of Secrets was opened, 20 plus 50 is 70. So Dumbledore was 70 in the events of Chamber of Secrets. Thus, if we move forward to book 7, that's another 5 years. Dumbledore was approximately age 74 when he died. So, in other words, nowhere near as old as Ron made him out to be. Even if you doubled Dumbledore's actual age, he would only be about 145. So, either Ron must have been exaggerating, as he always was, or the movie makers, yet again, showed a lack of consideration to the facts. So, do you disagree or agree? Do you think J.K. Rowling made a simple error, or did Dumbledore actually graduate Hogwarts early? Let me know what you think. Let me know also if someone else came up with this theory before I did, because I hate talking about theories that have already been brought up. And until my next video, keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye.